Hello, everyone, and welcome back to St. Jacobus Lutheran Church. This is Pastor Joe, and we continue our Read Up to the Ascension series. This is day 17, and we're going to look at Luke chapter 8, verses 22 to 56. This is sort of the culmination of Jesus' ministry in and around Galilee. This is the 4 stories right before Jesus sends out his disciples to other cities, towns, and places to continue the work he's taught them, to keep doing what he's shown them how to do. They've completed this apprenticeship of sorts where they've watched, learned from, listened to Jesus, and walked with him as he's done this work. Now, starting in chapter 9, this will be their time and their turn to go and do the work and report back and learn and be corrected and celebrate. And then Luke's gospel changes more towards Jesus' journey to the cross as this time of great signs of power and acts of faith and strength have been done. News about Jesus has spread, and we start to see the tone and audience that Jesus engages with begin to change. We see more conflict with the religious authorities, and we will see more anxiety among Jesus and his followers, more fear and more faith, more urgency. So we're going to finish Luke chapter 8 today, and we're going to see these 4 major events that happen right before Jesus sends his disciples out. They include Jesus calming the storm that they get trapped in and fear for their lives. It includes Jesus casting out demons from a man in Gerasene, and it also includes Jesus healing a woman who is dealing with an illness for over 12 years, who is dealing with medical bankruptcy and can't find anybody to help her. And then finally, Jesus restoring life to Jairus' daughter. Jairus was one of the leaders in the synagogue, an important and vital person in the community. We're going to sort of look at these 4 stories together and focus on what they say about who Jesus is and what it means to have God with us in the world. So I'm going to read Luke chapter 8. One day, Jesus got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side of the lake." So they put out. And while they were sailing, Jesus fell asleep. A windstorm swept down the lake, and the boat was filling with water, and they were in danger. They went to Jesus, woke him up, shouting, "Master, Master, we are perishing." And Jesus woke up and rebuked the wind and the raging waves. They ceased, and there was calm. Jesus said to them, "Where is your faith?" They were afraid and amazed and said to one another, "Who then is this, that he commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him?" Then they arrived at the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. As Jesus stepped out on land, a man of the city who had demons met him. For a long time the man had worn no clothes, and he did not live in a house, but in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he fell down before him and shouted at the top of his voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For Jesus had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many times it had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the wilds. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They begged Jesus not to order them to go back into the abyss. Now there on the hillside, a large herd of swine were feeding, and the demons begged Jesus to let them enter these. So Jesus gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank and into the lake, and was drowned. When the swineherd saw what had happened, they ran off and told it in the city and in the country. Then people came out to see what had happened, and when they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told them how the one who had been possessed by the demons had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them, for they were seized with great fear. So Jesus got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged Jesus that he might go with him. But Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." So he went away, proclaiming throughout the city how much Jesus had done for him. Now when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. Just then, there came a man named Jairus, a leader of the synagogue. He fell at Jesus' feet and begged him to come to his house, for he had an only daughter, about 12 years old, who was dying. As Jesus went, the crowds pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years, and though she had spent all she had on physicians, no one could cure her. She came up behind Jesus and touched the fringe of his clothes, and immediately her hemorrhage stopped. Then Jesus asked, "Who touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowd surround you and press in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I noticed that power had gone out from me." When the woman saw that she could not remain hidden, she came trembling and falling down before Jesus. She declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. Jesus said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." While Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher any longer." When Jesus heard this, he replied, "Do not fear, only believe, and she will be saved." When he came to the house, he did not allow anyone to enter with him except Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother. They were all weeping and wailing for her. But Jesus said, "Do not weep, for she is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But Jesus took her by the hand and called out, "Child, get up." Her spirit returned, and she got up at once. Then he directed them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astounded, but he ordered them to tell no one what had happened. The word of the Lord. Now, as I said right before the reading, these four stories sit as the either wind down or culmination of Jesus' ministry in and around Galilee. We've had about 5 chapters of Jesus healing, teaching, curing, exorcising demons, and doing these acts of power. These 4 are big ones. This is sort of the final for Jesus' disciples. They will watch him do things that are incredible, things that show he fulfills the prophecy of the Messiah and the Savior, things that show he has true power and true authority here on earth. Now we start with this first scene where they're on a boat and a windstorm comes suddenly, which places them in great danger. Now, they are scared. The boat is starting to flood and sink and rattle, and they have been there before, and they know it's not going to be a good situation. So they wake Jesus and say, "Hey, why did you take us across the sea when we're going to die here?" And Jesus simply rebukes the sea and the wind and tells it to stop. And it does. Jesus' disciples who've seen him do incredible things so far are now filled with fear and astonishment. Astonishment because of this power, and a bit of fear because they come to terms with how great what Jesus means. They witness the amazing and awesome power that Jesus has just shown. And I guess they continue to hope he uses this power for good. And they continue to hope that they stay on his good side. And they continue to dream or imagine where Jesus' ministry might go next. But they realize they are not going to be the ones who control that either. So after this calming of the storm, Jesus goes across the sea to this region of the Gerasenes, and there Jesus heals a person that nobody could restore. This person is possessed by a legion of demons. A legion was a Roman military term that meant a group of 5,000 soldiers. And this is a demon, a person possessed that would rip chains and cast people away from them and not be contained. This person is the most unclean of unclean, living among the dead and mutilating themselves and doing all these horrific things that make them unclean in every imaginable way. Now, Jesus heals. Jesus casts out this legion of demons. In a scene I'm not sure about, Jesus casts these demons into this line of pigs, which are living things and are somebody's livelihood and a food source for the community. And pigs, once the demons enter them, they all drown. They run off the cliff. Perhaps this is a reminder to us that evil does not leave the world gently. Perhaps it's a sign of just how much evil there can be in the world, just how much damage can be caused by one person. Perhaps this is something along those lines, but at the heart of it, we are reminded that this only happens once. Jesus never before or after sends demons into animals, which are then destroyed. This doesn't happen any other time or place in the scripture, so it's not a model that people are expected to follow, and it's not an example of what we should do as church or anything like that. This act of power, this tremendous act of power, again, scares the people who live in this community. And as soon as they witness and hear about what Jesus could do, when they get this account from the people who were there and they see this man that nobody could control or talk to or calm down sitting by Jesus, they again get scared and they ask Jesus to leave. They just can't handle what might happen, and they are better off just letting it be. They're thankful that this person is no longer a menace to their community. They're probably incredibly pissed about the pigs, but they do not want to know what's going to be next. Now, when Jesus returns, we walk into one of these very complicated, chaotic scenes. Jesus returns, and Jairus has a sick daughter. Jairus is a pillar of the community and somebody that a lot of people cared about. He has done good service in the synagogue and these places, and people would love to see his daughter healed and restored. So they come to Jesus for help, and Jesus agrees to go with him. Now, on the way, they get mobbed by this group of people looking for answers, for help, for healing, for restoration, for aid, for whatever else they're looking for. And I always imagine Jairus at this time screaming at them to get out of the damn way and move and make space so that they can get to his daughter. If you have something that could wait 2 days, well, wait. And all of a sudden, everything stops. And Jesus is looking for somebody who touched him. Everybody denies it. Peter says, dude, you're in this giant crowd of people shoving and screaming and singing and praising and praying and touching and bumping into each other. 200 people touched you. But Jesus says he has experienced his power leaving, and he must stop to address what happened. Now, the woman who was sick and bankrupt from trying to not be sick comes forward and says, I'm the one who touched you. She was probably afraid that Jesus would condemn her, attack her, do something terrible because she had stolen power from him. She had taken a healing that he was not prepared to give. Instead, Jesus celebrates her faith, lifting up what she has done and reassuring the crowd that she didn't get healed by magic. She got healed by faith, by God's active power in the world, by trusting and believing that God could do it. Jesus doesn't want any misconceptions that he's somehow magically oozing healing power. He wants people to realize it is God's presence in the world, it is faith that's doing the healing and the calming of the sea and the exorcising of the demons, and as we'll see in a few seconds, the restoration of life. So once the scene ends, Jesus goes and he restores Jairus' daughter to life. We're told several times that she is definitely dead, to the point that the people around Jesus laugh at him because he's so stupid he doesn't understand that this girl is not simply sleeping. Now, as soon as Jesus finishes restoring her to life, he tells them to give her something to eat. This is done as proof that she is really and truly alive. She's not a ghost or an illusion or some kind of specter or some spirit being that's incapable of consuming food. So after this, these 4 scenes end, and these stories are found in 3 of the 4 Gospels, or 4 of the 4 Gospels, depending on which one. So they're all important. They all show us Jesus exercising this tremendous authority, going above and beyond the limits that other people set for him, showing that he has the power over the wind and the seas, showing that he has power over demons that nobody could confront, control, or deal with, showing that he has the power to restore life, showing that he has the power to do what 12 years of physicians and priests could not. Jesus winds down this ministry with these 4 incredibly powerful acts of power and strength and signs of God's faith and what faith in God can do in a community. And immediately after this, as we'll see tomorrow, Jesus sends his disciples out so that they can try to do the same. These are the stories they're going to remember. They're going to remember what God had done through Jesus right before they went out. They're going to be confronted by things they didn't think they could do and challenges they didn't think they could overcome. And they will remember what Jesus did in this course of a few hours, and they will go and do the same. So I invite everybody to come back tomorrow as we start Luke chapter 9, and we see what these actions that Jesus has just completed, what they inspire and what they lead the disciples to be capable of doing. It's often a call for all of us today to remember what we see our churches and leaders and neighbors doing. It's a reminder of the differences we can make in our communities, whether it's through staying home, whether it's through working from home, doing essential jobs, doing emergency food, and advocating for people in need, for all those people on the forgotten lines, which are getting longer and longer every day. We continue to remember what we've witnessed God do through us, through churches, through all these different people and agencies. And we continue to imagine what's possible. Amen.